thank the ranking member for his working with me on this, so we'll get through all our questions.
You are the chair, sir. They were informing me just now, Ms. Brackey, that the Ag Committee can exempt the SNAP, so that'll be on us now. And we'll have to figure that out when we get back to D.C. But thank you, guys. I appreciate the participation, obviously. And so, Mr. Castillo, I want to ask you a question. You mentioned in your testimony that your organization often deals with junior ranking service members and low-income veterans families. Interesting, I was out, my brother he transitioned F-18s to Miramar, and we were here one night, and there was a young enlisted Marine delivering pizzas. He came to the door, so he was working 2 jobs trying to make ends meet. Because I know the Marine Corps, that's a pretty tough job, right? And so this kid he young, I don't know how old he was, but he was working all day in the Marine Corps and then delivering. I just found that amazing, because at Fort Rucker you didn't have that, because we don't have that cost of living issue in Alabama. So basically what you make, you can survive, right? So can you please elaborate on how the high cost of living in this region continues to impact these groups? I'm just curious more about that.
Yeah, I'd add not only the high cost of living, but also the unemployment rates that you see in military spouses, I think is adding to that. As we mentioned earlier, I wanted to add, the food bank has a Food for Kids backpack program. We support about 3,600 children each year on this program, where they receive food over the weekends. We are on multiple bases and support several schools, military schools, with this program. We're going to approach 4,000 children next year. So huge problem within military is the food insecurity for
So
children.
a follow-up, you say the spouse's unemployment levels. Why is that? I'm like, in Alabama, we passed the law, so licensed reciprocity. So if you were stationed at Fort Benning, your wife was a hairdresser, and she transitioned to Alabama. If she didn't have a license to cut hair in Alabama, she couldn't make a living. And Uncle Sam don't poll you when they move you. They say, hey, you're going to Fort Rucker from Fort Benning, right? And so I wonder sometimes, do y'all have that sort of law in California, do you know, Mr. Chairman, where you can get a licensed reciprocity waiver for spouses? Don't have that.
No.
So that would be helpful, because it was such a good bill for us. And what happened now, other than medical professionals, these spouses that taught schools, certificates, whatever it was, we could actually allow that wife or spouse, husband, whatever, to come in Alabama and go straight to work. So there you go, Mr. Chairman. I'll take care of the Ag SNAP issue if you'll take care of the licensing issue for California. But anyway, so, and Ms., is it Samoa? Samoa. Okay. So it's a southern thing with us. We don't get a lot of that. Can you tell me a little bit about how disinformation or lack of outreach can be a reason for veterans not seeking access to SNAP benefits? And I know we've covered that a little bit. I know there's a stigma, right? But anything else as far as outreach, you think? And when you say higher up, what do you mean? Like it needs to come from higher up the food chain?
What I mean by that is, maybe working with the VA closely, so that if there are folks who are screened for, screened positive for food insecurity, I understand that the services that the VA provides is very crucial, but also connected into social services within the community so that there's wraparound support for that individual is critical. But in terms of misinformation or not having enough information, I think that could also be upstream, like when folks are transitioning from active duty to veteran life, like different services that might be available to them if they need them, and helping maybe destigmatize at that point as well. Gotcha. But I think more outreach, I think with the pandemic, outreach has been very different. We're not able to be, or we haven't been out in the streets as much as we'd like to, but I think reviving that and just making sure that folks are aware of the different services available to them, helping destigmatize and helping streamline access to that, because I think we've discussed that quite a bit here.
Mr. Stewart, you mentioned barriers to SNAP. What do you mean when you say barriers to SNAP?
So much of that's already been discussed. Say, for example, the military and the basic allowance for housing, classified as income.
That's one of the barriers you're
That's
talking
one of
about.
the barriers right there. The lengthy process in itself is a barrier, so those are some of your basic barriers
Sure.
to the process itself. I think it just needs refining. It's great that you're going to take on that piece, because I think it's long overdue.
Please don't put that out publicly, but I just know now that it's in my lap up here. That that's an ag, sir. You got to take care of that.
I think it's all recorded, right?
So, yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Right.
But so that's very, very important from that. And if I may, we talk about the getting the word out.
Right.
I think that we need to focus on how to get the word out, because the world is a different place than the days when a brochure would tell it all.
Yeah.
Okay? There's many other places that we can communicate with our men and women in the veterans community and those that are in the next wave in the military to give them enough compassionate narrative that they can hear it and realize that it is not a surrender. Because that's the thing about this is when you have those situations, you serve your country for for many years, and you reach a point where you got it all together at a particular time, and then life changes, and then at that it's you don't have the safety net, and how are we going to do this? And it's very difficult to maneuver through those waters, and that's why you see other things with this, right? Homelessness,
Yeah, desperation.
suicide. You see all those different things that come, and it's compounded by these issues.
Gotcha. Mr. Chairman, I actually went over my time for the first time ever.
You
So I'll
keep
yield
going,
back,
you
so.
keep going. No,